Hello, my darlings. I don't think my channel will survive this video. Let's see. So, I'm gonna be talking about Lioness Season 2. I'm gonna be discussing a little bit of Season 1 as well, and I'm gonna give a warning in the beginning because this is such a US American show about politics, about military operations, about all that stuff. And to me, it's clearly just impossible to discuss my opinion of the show and to review the show without giving my own opinions about it. And I think I will probably offend, very easily offend some of my US audience. So this is a warning. If you feel offended by some of my opinions, that's totally fine. I know there's a lot of people on the internet lately that are saying you can't be offended by someone else's opinions. It's okay. You can be offended. People are emotional. Like a couple years ago, I was in Cyprus having a discussion about gender issues, and a random guy said, no, men can't wear skirts. Skirts are for women. And I was so angry I could have ripped his head off. And then it just turned out that he was from the Ivory Coast and had never seen a man wearing a skirt and didn't think it was culturally appropriate in other places. He just didn't know. At the end, he said, yeah, I don't care. I just won't do it. So I get it if you get angry. I get angry at opinions sometimes too. It's fine. But yeah, I grew up in a completely different context from the US political and economic context. So some things just look a bit silly to me. Okay? These are my opinions. Feel free to disagree with them, but I'm still gonna say them. Lioness Season 2, from the first 2 episodes that I saw, is already getting this US American show treatment that a lot of shows get. One good example is Grey's Anatomy. What happens is when you have a first few seasons, or in this case, 1 season, and when any US show kind of gives a perspective that is different from the general consensus opinion that the US people have about their own country, in following seasons, the show kind of gets this treatment where it either becomes incredibly religious or it becomes incredibly focused on military valor and protecting your country and all that kind of stuff. Lioness Season 2 kind of seems like it's going in that direction because they're no longer focusing on how they are attacking a foreign enemy or a foreign target. They're focusing on how they are protecting the country, which I didn't think it would come so soon, but it's the treatment that a lot of these shows get. And I'm still going to watch Lioness because I still really liked the perspective that they gave the Lioness agent in the first season. So I'm hoping for some perspective in the Lioness from this season as well. Let's see how it goes. The thing that is so silly to me at this point watching these shows, and Lioness did it as well, is just having these scenes of a bunch of US officials discussing around a table how they have to protect themselves from all these countries that are trying to bully them when they are literally the bully, like the most powerful military, the richest country or one of the richest countries. And it's just absolutely insane to me that they frame the way that the show and a lot of other media is framing the US is as this bullied kid in the courtyard that needs to defend itself. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what do you mean? Like, you have the greatest military in the world. You spend so much money on your military that you literally don't have money to take care of your homeless. Like, looking from the outside, it's just a little bit sad to see such a rich country that doesn't know how to take care of its people and that literally neglects its people and lets them fend for themselves. Because how do you have so much money and you still can't take care of your people's health and education and well-being, and you spend all that money on military because you're so paranoid that you're going to lose all your power, that you completely disregard the reason why you even need power, for the safety and well-being of your people. Like, to me, it's really wild to have to potentially, be in debt just to go to the hospital for an emergency. And, this is the thing. I see videos online all the time of US immigrants in Portugal, and how amazed they are by the healthcare system, that you could get good healthcare for cheap or sometimes for nothing. I take 2 pills every day, one for my thyroid issues and one for my allergies, and I can get like maybe 2 months worth of these pills for about €5. If I go get blood tests for my thyroid or for anything else, I don't pay. If I go to my GP, I don't pay. If I have an emergency and I have to have an ambulance take me to the hospital, I don't pay for the ambulance. I maybe will have to pay for some exams, but it's not going to be expensive at all. We have like this healthcare line where if you call with a complaint or symptoms or whatever, they'll have a nurse, and sometimes they'll consult a doctor to either give you a prescription for medication, either do some follow-up in the following days or weeks, or just direct you to the hospital. And if you come from this healthcare line, you don't even pay for the exams at the hospital. And I mean, Portugal is generally regarded in Europe as a poor country, but the people are not poor like we are. A lot of us are poor in like the greater scheme of things, but we're not poor in the way that we have to struggle with healthcare or education. I mean, there is struggle. There is still cases of people that, for example, won't go to university because it's too expensive, but it's not like no one would even consider taking out a loan to go to university. That's what I mean. And this is why as well I feel so conflicted sometimes about US immigrants in Portugal, because on the one hand, US immigrants here have such a huge buying power, because when you have US salary in the US, you barely make ends meet because it's a rich country that doesn't take care of its people, so the people need to be rich to take care of themselves. But then when you come with that salary to Portugal, a country where people don't really need to be that rich to take care of themselves, you have a huge buying power. So the landlords, the business owners, all these people just take advantage of it because because then they no longer need the Portuguese buyers. And it just makes a huge mess. But on the other hand, seeing like families coming over here and bringing their kids and then getting access to good quality healthcare for peanuts and just seeing how happy they are, I just, you can't help but feel happy about that. People shouldn't have to sell a kidney to get a kidney transplant, And I mean, Portugal is a very flawed country. Our political system is not perfect. It's very corrupt at times, a lot. And the healthcare system has been struggling for years. But it's just a different mentality. And all this just to say that it's hilarious to me sometimes to watch shows like Lioness, where the US is portrayed as this bullied country that has enemies everywhere, when we know that the US is the bully. Like, you are probably the most powerful country in the world. Take a chill pill. Show. And another thing, by the way, since I'm now talking about all of this, when people say that they hate Americans, they don't actually mean the people. Like, yeah, American tourists are loud, but I mean, have you met Italians? They're much louder and everyone loves them. It's not a hateable offense to be loud or to be puritanical or whatever. When people say they hate Americans, even if they don't exactly mean it this way, what they mean is they hate the system that they are brought up in. Because it's a system that kind of indoctrinates you into believing that you come from the greatest place in the world, even though that place doesn't take care of you. Like, I have training in victim support. I worked a lot with victims of domestic violence. And this is kind of what an abuser makes a victim believe, that the abuser is the best person the victim could ever have and that they could never get better. And at the same time, they abuse them and neglect them and treat them like shit. This is what it feels like when you're looking from the outside in. This is the relationship that feels like the US has with its people. Like, they tell them that there's no better place to be, and then they don't take care of them. And they spend all their money on making sure they are too powerful to be overthrown. That's what it feels like. In season 1 of Lioness, they did something incredibly well. The first characters they introduced to us, the team that selects the Lioness agent to go on the field, these are not the good guys. These are not the people that we as the audience are meant to connect with, to relate to. The person we are meant to connect with is the Lioness agent that is introduced, I don't know, first, second episode or something. This is the person whose perspective we're supposed to follow. And they did something so well in season 1. And this is the reason why I loved Lioness season 1. It was not for the team in specific. It was for the Lioness and her story arc. She was an abused woman. She came from an abusive relationship, and that is why she joined the military, because she didn't have anyone else and she didn't have anywhere else to go. It was an escape for her. And when she was selected for the Lioness program, one of the ways they did to train her was to simulate SA. These are the people that are supposed to be taking care of her, by the way. And I loved that it illustrated how much the US, and in extent the US military, does not care about its people and does not care what it does to its people as long as they get the mission done. And this woman, who is trained to be a lioness, infiltrates the life of another woman who is, I think she was the daughter of an arms dealer, right? He was like one of those horrible people that sell guns to both sides of wars just to profit off of the war. It was something like that. This is the point about any war, any conflict from any country, anywhere. Oftentimes the reason is valid enough. Like, going after a man who profits from a war is valid. Like, I also wouldn't want that person to exist. I also wouldn't want someone to sell guns to both sides of the war just to profit from it. The thing they do wrong, and this is not a US problem. This is a human problem. The thing that everyone does wrong is the way to do it. Because Lioness season 1 illustrates this point so well that the person in the show that we are meant to relate to, the Lioness agent, what was her name? Manuelos. By the end of the season, she is not on the side of the US. She's not on the side of the team because she knows exactly what she did. And the show illustrates this point to a T. And the point is, if you kill one terrorist or if you kill one bad person, you create 5 more. And that's what they did. They got the old dude who had the business with the arms or whatever it was, but they left the daughter alive. They left the rest of the family alive. So maybe they killed one bad one, but they created 5 more. With this one very clear mission, the show in season 1 was able to illustrate this point completely. The problem is the method, the way they do it, the way people go about starting wars and waging wars for whatever the reason they have. The problem is the method. This is what all of the hero and superhero movies are about. I mean, the easiest example to illustrate this is the crotch dude, is Thanos. Who wouldn't agree with him? Who wouldn't agree that we are consuming too much of the Earth's resources? The problem is not his idea. His idea is fine. The problem is the method that he used by killing half of the people on it. That's the point of the show. The idea that they had was not the problem. Their methods were. Nothing ever, absolutely nothing is ever enough to justify continuing to kill people. Because no one can come out of a war a winner. No one. Because if thousands of people have to die for you to win a war, what did you win? And I know all the dude bros and everyone is going to be like, you're so naive, you don't know how the world works, you're so innocent. So are you, if you think that anyone on the planet is waging a war for anything other than territory, power, and resources. They're not protecting you. They want the oil. They want the control of the region. And you know what? Someone always wins. But it's not the people. The people die. The winners are the elected officials and the business people who make money off of it and gain power off of it. And Lioness season 1 was on it with that argument. Season 2 is getting the treatment. And you know what? There's been this thing on the internet that perfectly illustrates this idea, because there's been the whole thing with the man versus bear, and then it started a new thing where basically men say something that women need men for, and then women say, for what? For example, a guy says, yeah, without men, who is going to protect you when you're walking home alone? And then the woman answers, protect me from what? From who? And then there's another one where a man says, yeah, without men, who is going to war? And then there's a woman saying, no one. We don't want war. We just want to eat bread in peace. This idea that war and violence is an inevitability and a fundamental part of the human condition and of human society is so incredibly insane to me. And initially, what I was expecting from Lioness season 2 was them to continue undermining this idea that the missions that come out of the US, that all the wars that come out of the US and other countries, I'm just talking about the US because the show takes place in the US, that all of this stuff is hypocritical and it's not actually doing any good because the way they are doing it is not right, and the short-term consequences are not in the least related to long-term peace. But no, I don't think they are going that way. From the first 2 episodes, as I said before, it just seems like they are taking the the treatment, and they're going to go on a season that is a lot more about protecting the country rather than going outside of the country to execute missions to the interest of the country. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going on a whole rant and it's all wrong and they're still going to make it interesting. I mean, it will be interesting for sure. The season will be interesting. I'm just not sure what they're going to try to say with this one. I don't know. Let's see what happens and how they take it. So far, these are my thoughts on the season. I think they're giving it the treatment, and I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting as much nuance from this season as from last season, but I might be wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong. And that's all I have for you today. I think I just want to leave you with a side note that is really funny, because when the blonde asshole guy was explaining to the team all of the structure with the cartels in Mexico, I was having flashbacks to my time in Cyprus when, because I used to work at an NGO in Cyprus, and one of my colleagues was at one point giving us a presentation about the mob, the structure of the different sections of the mob in Italy, because she's Italian. And the whole time she was giving that presentation, I was thinking, how do you know this much? Is this an Italian thing? Do all Italians know this much about the mob? And I just never asked. I don't need to know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if anything that I said strikes you in a weird way, or if you think it's like a strange opinion, because I am curious about how like people from the US feel about other people having such developed opinions on their country, because I don't think it happens with a lot of other places. Maybe the biggest players, the richest countries or the most developed countries maybe have this many like external opinions. But for example, I've never once heard anyone outside of maybe the EU, who isn't from Portugal having such a good understanding of our political system and economic system. Because I mean, it's a tiny country. It doesn't have that much impact in the world's scheme of things. So it must be like a different experience to be from the US and having all the time like everyone around the world knowing how shit works and having opinions, you know. I'm curious about that. So let me know in the comments. And see you Thursday. Yeah, see you Thursday with the finale of Only Murders in the Building. That's right. See you Thursday. It's gonna be a good one. Loretta better not die.